every complaint is a poorly worded request. What it essentially means is, I don't know about you, but like I will be talking with friends, or I'll go up and I'll start to talk with, other parents at a kid's game, or I will, talking with coworkers, and they're complaining about different things. And, it's complaining about, the ref at a game, or complaining about, well, we don't get enough XYZ, or whatever it is, right? Like our society has this way of teaching us how to complain. But when
Yeah.
you get really curious about it, it's into it, it's like, all right, well, what are you actually asking for? What is the request that you actually have? So, that ref's awful. Okay, well, what is your request? Well, I want them to call the game better.
Welcome back to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where everyday people share the quotes that have shaped their lives, inviting us all to reflect and grow together. Today we are joined by Traci Austin, a transformational leadership strategist and the founder of Elevated Talent Consulting. With over 20 years of experience in HR and workforce development, Tracy is dedicated to bridging the leadership gap in the trades, helping teams strive and fostering meaningful work environments. Let's dive into Tracy's journey and discover the quote that has inspired her along the way. Tell us your name and what your favorite quote is.
Sure. So my name is Traci Austin, and I'm struggling with a favorite quote, but the item that I love is, we believe that every complaint is just a poorly worded request.
Ooh. Every complaint is just a poorly worded request.
Yes.
You know why I'm smiling? It has nothing to do with the quote you just shared. It's the fact that I'm thinking that the day you booked the time for this podcast, I think maybe that the exact moment you booked the time, you were like eating. Because now what I'm saying is, I wonder what is on their plate. That's what you're feeling. Okay, so we'll deal with it too, of course.
So what was the question?
No, like we know you answered a couple of questions when you booked time for this podcast. And
Right.
the response you gave when I asked you what is one quote, life lesson, or personal mantra, you said, I wonder what is on their plate.
Oh, yes. And you see it's right behind me on my plate. Yeah. I wonder what's on their plate that I don't yet know about. And what I love about that is it inspires curiosity, because you never know what someone else is going through. And so that just, if you kind of think of that every time you walk into a conversation, it really allows you to open yourself up to be curious as to what's going on with them. That starts to open up a conversation that can go in so much deeper in different places than if we're stuck in our own world. But I wonder what's on their plate that I don't yet know about.
Yeah. Okay. So it gets you to start thinking what they're going through.
Exactly. And it gets you curious.
I wonder what's on their plate. Why am I thinking of food?
Because there's a plate behind me. It's like, but it's like so often it's like I find that when I'm talking with people, and it's like, you're juggling things or what's going on with them, and that you just never know. You never know if they're, have a sick kid, or, there's something going on at home, or they're taking care of a parent, or like there's so many things that are going on that, we all have multiple competing priorities, that little bit of curiosity just opens the door to have those deeper relationships and not have so much judgment.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think of a word to use for that that perspective. I don't know if it's is it? No, is it empathy? Something like that. And you're like, okay,
Empathy?
I don't know. Something
Yeah.
like, I wonder what's on their plates. What's the word? It's empathy. That's the closest one I have right now. Probably later on.
Curiosity is what it creates for me.
Okay. Curiosity. Okay. I guess it's on the context. I wonder what's on their plate. I feel like this quote is, we need to do a revised edition in this podcast. We need to revise this quote. I feel like it's a kind of quote that you can interpret it the way you want to. And now I'm not sure if that's the interpretation for the quote.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay. Because it gets get us curious. But then sometimes I wonder what's on their plate. We could also look and say, oh, I wonder what they're dealing with, or I wonder what they have figured out, or I wonder, yeah, 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 okay,
And what I find is most of the time I don't ever ask, right? But it
yeah,
allows the compassion and it allows the empathy and it allows me to check my own judgments. It's like, well, why didn't they get this done by X period of time? Or why didn't they do that? Or like we go into all these judgments and this like shoulding. And then it's like this little quote will pop in my head and I'm going, okay, I wonder what's going on. So then I'll slow down a little bit and my demeanor changes. That
yeah,
changes the conversation.
yeah, yeah. I wonder what's on their plates. Coming out of a place of curiosity, and it's also coming out of a place of empathy too. I wonder what's on their plate. This is your quote, right?
I don't know where I picked this one up. I picked it up from somewhere, but I don't know who to attribute it to. Or maybe it's one I put together with a couple different people. I don't know.
Okay, so let's call it Anonymous. Funny thing is that when I was pretty young, when I would see the name Anonymous, I would always say, "Wow, this guy is a very brilliant guy." Because most of the best quotes I knew,
From
when they were
Anonymous.
attributed, they were like Anonymous. I was like, this was one of the great philosophers. That guy was pretty intelligent. Anonymous, Anonymous. Was later on I then checked, like later on I was like, oh, so Anonymous means it's not a name of a person. It means you just can't figure out who said it. I was like, yeah. I was like, oh, it was like an eye-opening moment for me. The other quote you mentioned earlier on before you I brought this one up is every complaint is a poorly worded request, something like that.
Yeah, that one's mine. I'll take credit for that one.
Okay, okay. So I'm really curious, what does that mean? And can you paint a context for us to really
Absolutely.
understand that?
Yeah, absolutely. So every complaint is a poorly worded request. What it essentially means is, I don't know about you, but like I will be talking with friends or I'll go up and I'll start to talk with, other parents at a kid's game, or I will, talking with coworkers and they're complaining about different things. And, it's complaining about, the ref at a game or complaining about, well, we don't get enough XYZ or whatever it is, right? Like our society has this way of teaching us how to complain. But when
Yeah,
you get really curious about it, it's into it, it's like, all right, well, what are you actually asking for? What is the request that you actually have? So, that ref's awful. Okay, well, what is your request? Well, I want them to call the game better. Well, what's better, right? So
okay.
again, it's building in curiosity, but it's really looking at, that entryway into how do we start to get and ask for what we really want to need.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Every complaint is a poorly worded request.
Hmm.
And the question for me I'm asking is that why do we prefer to complain when we can just ask and say, oh, I could say, hey, that's true. I could say, your AC is making a loud noise. Why is it really terrible? And I was like, and instead I was like, could you check if the mic is connected and let's see how, and then make up a request and say, can you check if this, or can you turn off the AC for now? It's just about 15 minutes. I know it will be really hot, but we can manage. We're not going to die. Rather than
Right,
say,
right.
this is really terrible. You're just messing up the sound. I can't even hear you.
And I didn't even realize it wasn't on because, of course, I can hear the AC, but we
Yeah,
don't want the mic to pick up the AC.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
and
Yeah. We want
I
to let the mic work every single penny.
I know. Let me tell you. And
Yeah,
I don't know why it doesn't just pick up the mic. Like, here's my complaint to Riverside. Is Riverside, why can't you just pick up the right
yeah.
mic?
Riverside is a terrible software. They don't do this. And here, yeah, it would be nice if Riverside, if I can set a default mic for Riverside to pick whenever
There
I
we
join,
go. There we
and
go. Now
then
we have a
yeah,
request. Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. And especially in workplaces, what I find is we have to permission requests because folks, depending upon the culture, don't feel confident or comfortable to make a request. We'll
Yeah.
complain, but we're not going to complain to somebody that can do something about it.
Yeah. Talk about these things behind their backs and say, yeah, this
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
is a terrible this. He doesn't even and I'm like, so what does that change? And things that when you talk like that, it's like, oh, he's inconsiderate. How can he say that? What is that? I just poured out my heart and my feelings and all that. And guess what he said? What does that change? That guy, he's what's the word? He's inhuman. Yeah. He's very wicked. Yeah. Yeah. And so oftentimes people complain and then they would expect you to articulate their complaint or request for them. And I'm like, you could just tell me what you want. What do you want?
Yeah, and so often that's what I'll, say is, "Okay, so what are you actually asking for?" And they're like, "Well, I just want you to change your mic." "Oh, didn't know I was on the wrong one."
Yeah. Yeah.
We got great material to talk about tonight with the mic.
Yeah. 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 I'm happy I captured that. I'll leave it in post-production. So everything makes up for the context of the conversation.
I love it. I
You
love
can't you
it.
can't make that stuff up.
No, you can't. And since it became such an integral part of the conversation.
Yeah. 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 Every complaint is a poorly um rewarded content.
Request.
Everything was just going and then it was looking as if the computer froze. Okay. For me, we talked about the workplace complaints and how people complain to their leaders and all that. I want us to take it personal, right? Oftentimes, people complain about things to themselves. Well, my country is it's a terrible country. The leadership is terrible. The politics is terrible, and all those things. And sometimes that's true. Other times it's not. But when we articulate the request, it then makes it easy for us to know what we want to deal with, what we want to solve. I give an example. I think when I started this podcast, my internet was really terrible. And I could only do, I started with video podcasts, but then my internet was terrible. Having a conversation was really bad. I would freeze. And by the time I talk, I would hear my guest maybe 5 minutes, a couple of minutes later. And, it was really hard having a conversation. So I was like, I guess interview podcast is not made for me. I'm going to do solo podcast. Now, the internet in my country is bad. Like it's bad. It's bad. Now I could complain about that and say, internet is terrible. Podcasting is not meant for someone to do because right now, I'm having good internet. This to about 20 to 30 MB per second. That's the great internet right now. But on the regular, it's about 5 MB per second, and it's really hard for video. I could complain about that, but then I could say, okay, what's the issue now? I have terrible internet. Okay, what do I do? Okay, I need to find something to like fix the internet. But then I would also say, oh, the country is bad, and everybody say that because at the end of the day, when you complain, this is it. When you make a request, in order to make a request, it gets you thinking who's in charge, who will grant that request. Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation.
Absolutely. And what can you control? We can control our thoughts. We can control our own actions. That's it. And so if we change our thought around it, we can change how we feel, which change our actions, which changes our results.
Exactly. What can we control? When you make a request, it's easy to. So what's the word for a request that is made for you? Okay, like when you make a request for yourself. I know usually a request is meant for someone else. It's something that you make for someone else.
Yeah. I think that that's the negotiation that we do with ourselves every day, right? Like,
Yeah.
I mean, like getting out of bed, I negotiate with myself every morning around, am I going to hit the snooze 4 times or am I going to pop out of bed and go lift weights, right? And I think some of the requests to ourselves come in the shape and form of goals and commitments. And those are the requests for ourselves that we start to set up. And, just that, what do we want my life to look like? What do I want my life to look like? Well, I'm essentially making requests of myself and having that negotiation as to, am I going to show up for the future Tracy that I want right now? Because I know future Tracy, I need to do something now to have the life that I want then. And thank you for past Tracy for what she's done for what I have right now.
Yeah. I just checked ChatGPT and it gave me resolution, intention, affirmation, blah blah blah. And I think we'll stick with resolution. So when we make a request to ourselves, it's more like a resolution. Oh, this year, I am my health is not really good. I need to be more fit and all that. And so I'll make a request that I would exercise every day and walk so number of miles every day, and then it's a resolution, because now this is a decision that I've made, that I would do this or not do that. And yeah, every complaint is a poorly
And I
rewarded
think
request.
what's interesting about what you just said as well is if we compare ourselves to some ideal, we'll never hit it and we're always failing. Yet, if we start to look at what are my wins, now I can start to stack my wins to get more wins and build those. And I do think it's really important that we stack our wins together and compare ourselves to who we were the day before, not to some ideal that means we are never going to reach it.
Yeah, complaining is for me. I'm still wondering, why is it that people complain instead of making a request? That's the thing that I'm trying to wrap my brain around. Like, why is it that people complain instead of making a request?
I think because we're taught to, and it's easier to complain than actually ask for what you want.
No, for me, it seems like it's the same. Like sometimes you even use lesser words to request rather than complain. Oh, I see. Usually, when you make a request, you have to confront the person who has the power to make the change, and so nobody wants to face the person that has the power to make the change. Instead, they just complain, because usually when they
Yeah.
complain, most of the times they're not even talking to the person that is in charge, that has the power to change it or not.
No. And if we think about how much we complain, what's essentially happening is think about how much mental energy we waste on complaining versus putting that energy to something that we can actually impact.
Yeah, that's responsibility. That's
Mhm.
yeah, that's responsibility. Yeah, I could tell you something that, oh, please, could you do this for me? Or I could go behind your back and say, oh, no, she was, the sound was really terrible. Like, I can't believe that. That's how people from Wisconsin. That's how they do.
I didn't even realize it was the wrong mic was on.
Yeah, that's how they do. Look at I had one really terrible. And it, behind see, now that you mentioned that quote, I remember countless times where people will go on and then they will complain about someone over and over again. And for me, I'm just wondering, I'm like, why can't you just meet the person and say, dude, this stuff you're doing, can you, let's say it's your neighbor, the music is too loud, can you turn it down a bit? I'm trying to sleep right now. No, it takes courage. Usually people are so afraid that they would rather talk about someone behind the back than face the person, confront the person. Confront is more like a strong word, but usually talk to the person and say, yeah, could you do this? And usually, most of the time, it's straightforward, but no, we don't want to do that.
Yeah. And I think that's accountability, right? Like accountability is also us taking the responsibility for naming something when it has an impact. And, again, what can we control? We can control our thoughts and our actions.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but for some reason, society has trained us to be predisposed to blaming people. And that's where complaint comes from.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
My video sounds terrible. If not for this guest, my video would have sounded terrible. Ah! Wow, wow, wow. Wow. Okay. Yeah, because now there's somebody to blame. So
Exactly.
it's not me. I
I mean,
didn't do
what is
anything.
Tracy doing? Like, she
I mean, I
did
didn't do
not.
anything. No, it's not me. It's you see, my mic is everything is sounding well. I'm not the one. She's the one. Right? It's easier to blame people. And for me, the thing about blaming is that sometimes things we what's the word? We relinquish control. We outsource control when we blame people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, like, yeah, my life is terrible because of you. And guess what? It means you're the one controlling what happens in my life or not. So there's
Right.
basically nothing I can do. And so you can't blame me because you can't.
And that's where we give our power away. And, that there's such a huge caution there is, don't give your power to someone else because then you're giving away what you can actually control.
Exactly. And even in terms of making complaints and all that, is the question when we should ask ourselves is, do we want to create drama? Do we want to create reality TV, or do we want to solve problems? If something is painful enough, you should find a way to solve it. And if you cannot solve it, if it's something that cannot be solved, there's really no big deal about it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because now we're spending mental energy, we're spending mind, we feel, because usually when you complain, you're not exactly happy. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah, because every complaint is a poorly worded request. I'll take note of that, just in case. Probably maybe I have employees later in the future, and I notice that they're complaining, and then I can actually sit down with them and actually train them and say, if you need this, let me know. Yeah, that's true. It's both sides. So yeah. We've been talking about the individual. Yeah, we should also talk about the boss, the leaders, and all that, so that you can sit down with them and talk to them and say, have a conversation with them, maybe a couple of minutes, and say, I can't help you because I don't understand complaint. If you having a problem, if the one fund is not working, if this is not working, if the job is too much, if you cannot figure out how to do the job, don't complain. Tell me this is how you should do this. Reach out to me via this and tell me that this is not working. And I've had this instance before when I gave someone a job to do. I think it was I gave someone a job to do, and later on he was like, the stuff is not the what was it? She was like, the instruction is not clear. And at that moment I sat down, I just stepped back and I was like, okay, the instruction is not clear. Now, so whose fault is it? My fault. Now, of course, I accept responsibility that the instruction is not clear. But you should have told me at the point in time when I gave you the job that the instruction was not clear, so that I would have made the instruction clearer or more clear, something like that. Not 2 weeks, 3 weeks after the task was given to you, and now you're telling me that the instruction is not clear. And so guess what? Who's to blame? It's not you. Yeah, no, it's the person that gave the instruction.
Yeah. And I think when we look at those complaints, and I can give you an example here, like the example I have is no one wants to work anymore. It's a common complaint I hear so often. No one wants to work anymore. Okay. So it's really looking at what are the facts and what's the data. So, and this is, a situation that I come up quite frequently with clients. And so, what are the facts? Well, we've had 89% turnover in the first 90 days. Okay. So when we hire somebody, the first 90 days that they're with us, our turnover rate is 89%. Meaning we're only retaining 11% of the people past 90 days. I said, okay, so that's the fact. So does that mean no one wants to work anymore? No, not necessarily, right? So we have two different things going on. But now that I have the facts in front of me, I can look and say, are we hiring folks that are the right fit for a role? That could be one reason why we're turning over. Are we training them correctly in the first 90 days? Is our culture what they believe they're stepping into? Do they have the support that they need and clear directions on what the job expectations are, right? So there's 4 different things there. So it's really looking at and saying, all right, what are the facts here? And once we have the facts, now we can look at what is the impact based on those facts. So an example would be, we work a lot with construction trade organizations. And if I'm the foreman, that means if I have 89% of turnover, I'm back on the tools 90% of the time because I'm not actually able to do the job that I was hired for. So I'm trying to do, the job that's needed while still doing this foreman job. And I'm doing it poorly and I'm stressed out. So that's the impact on me. The impact on the organization is we're missing deadlines and we're getting customer complaints. The impact on other employees is they're burnt out, they're frustrated, and we're increasing turnover for those that have been with us for more than 90 days. And then the impact on the customers, unmet expectations. Well, now that we can see the facts and the impact, now we can start to make some really strong requests with data that will allow us to get other folks enrolled in a resolution.
Thank you. I'm happy. I'm sad and I'm happy. I'm sad that the episode is coming to an end, but I'm happy that I'm still going to see you soon. So
yes.
Yeah. And then we'll talk about your podcast story. Yeah, thank you so much, Tracy, for sharing your favorite quotes with us and for helping me make sense of it.
Thank you.
Yeah. If people want to learn more about you and what you do, where can they do that?
Yeah, we're at elevatedtalentconsulting.com, and I have something called a Tough Talk audit. So if you actually want to go through how to turn a complaint into a request and how to have that conversation, we can absolutely do that.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Okonkwo. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatable wisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.